Okay, welcome everybody. Today I'm talking with Matt, founder of Tilted Pixel, an agency specializing in growing membership sites. Matt's agency has worked with numerous six-figure membership sites and has a deep playbook on what works and what doesn't in the membership space. Matt, welcome to the Membership Maker podcast.
Thanks so much for having me on, Ward.
Yeah, sure thing. All right. So we know that you've seen and worked with very different types of memberships and different types of pricing strategies for those membership businesses. Question that we often get is, what should my pricing strategy be like? Should I charge my members annually, quarterly, or monthly? What have you seen that works the best?
Yeah, so there's a few things we can jump into here. The golden rule is the longer the membership cycle is, so for example, yearly versus monthly, the more valuable that customer ends up becoming. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One is the obvious. If they commit to a month, then after month one or month two, they might get everything they want out of your membership and just say, see ya, in which case you've charged them very little comparatively for your content. Versus if you get an annual commitment, then you know you're getting at least that 1 year. So it's just math. They're going to be much more valuable. And also the people that are committing to an annual or even a quarterly membership are more committed, period, right? And if you look back on your own experiences, if you've ever joined a membership site or something similar, the lower your upfront investment, the less seriously you take it, the less engaged you are, and so on. And therefore, you're more likely to just let it slip by the wayside. So there's two things going on here. Is one is just getting that commitment, getting them to take it seriously, and the other is just mathematical. And the thing to realize is when they're signing up for your membership site, they're probably the most excited about it on day one because you've just done a ton of marketing around it. You've probably have some sort of email sequence you're using to get people on board. And so they're ready, they're willing to jump in. And what we find is typically that annual barrier is not it's not a showstopper, or when it is, you can scale down to quarterly. The exception being if your membership is really costly, like if it would be like 1,000 or 2,000 a year, then people start wanting, it broken out into more payments. But if you're charging like a couple $100 a year, there's a very good chance if you just remove your monthly plan, the value of your customer will jump up just like that.
So like a good rule of thumb, if it's in like the low, maybe mid hundreds in terms of an annual price, annual shouldn't be too much of a barrier. If you're getting above 500 for the year and obviously over 1,000, then it potentially might do more harm than good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the golden rule here is, of course, you can experiment as well. The monthly thing is great because you can experiment just by removing it from your checkout and sales page and seeing what happens for a couple months. And what we'll find is conversions may drop a little bit. You might get a 10, even 20% conversion drop, which at first sounds like, oh, wow, that's terrible. What's happening? But when you realize that usually the value of an annual member is 2 to 3 times that of a monthly member, right? If you average it out and look at how much a member is worth, they're worth that much more. So a slight drop in conversions is actually perfectly okay because you make it up in much higher customer value.
Right, that makes sense. So a couple, I guess, sort of curveball questions then. Uh, One, that all sounds good in theory. Let's say you get a bunch of people to sign up. Month goes by, 2 months goes by, maybe 3 months goes by. They've been pretty happy, but then suddenly they're not, for whatever reason. And they say, you know what? Hey, Matt, I gave it a good shot, just not loving it. I'm gonna need to cancel, and I don't want to. Can you give me a refund? How would you approach that, or what kind of general guidance do you think you might have for folks who come across that? Because just as context, like for MemberSpace, for example, we definitely have people who pay annually, and sometimes they cancel before a year is up, and sometimes they ask for refunds, sometimes they don't. And I'm just kind of curious if you have any best practices or thoughts around that.
Yeah. So speaking to refunds more broadly, if someone asks for a refund, my general policy is yes, give them a refund, right? You have very little to gain by trying to fight it. You can create issues with your payment processor. If they start doing chargebacks, you're going to hurt your reputation. And because we're here in the world of mostly digital products, or at least high margin products where our costs aren't tied to our customer, but more our marketing and so on, it doesn't cost us a lot to give that refund. It's not like you shipped someone, a very expensive product and like a laptop, and you need to get that back. So give them the refund. And our experience is that as long as the membership is valuable and everything is groovy, then this happens so infrequently that it's negligible, especially when you look at the revenue bump. But that said, I mean, if you are finding your refund rates are high, like you're getting a 15% refund rate, for example, that's something to examine, period. And that's probably not an issue with your billing cycle or your tiers or anything like that. It's probably something deeper where there is a fundamental mismatch between the person's expectations and what your membership is actually delivering. And that is definitely worth troubleshooting.
Yeah, and do you feel like, and I agree with you in general, like, yeah, if someone asks for a refund, you should give it to them. There's more downside to not doing it. But for an annual specifically, or even for a quarterly membership, do you believe in like a prorated refund? Like if you've used up 3 of your 12 months of an annual, it will refund you 9 of those 12 months if you cancel.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Most people will go for it, so you may as well do it. And that's fine. But again, because the refund should be a negligible portion of the revenue, it honestly doesn't matter too much. It kind of comes down to your own personal preferences. You can definitely give them a prorated refund, and that's totally fair. But at the end of the day, that's not really going to change the trajectory of your business.
Gotcha. Okay, so one other question then. It seems pretty clear. I think you're making it a good case for why quarterly and annual memberships and subscription plans that should be maybe thought of as the default, or at least you should experiment with it, depending on a few factors. Aside from having an expensive annual plan like we talked about, $500 or more dollars, is there any other reason you can think of why someone would not want to have an annual or quarterly plan? Would want to stick to like a monthly or maybe even weekly?
Yeah. Honestly, it's not too many. Price is probably the big concern. There's a lot of reasons why you may have difficulties with this and it doesn't work out quite that way. They all come down to is there something about the membership that's not quite sticky, right? That people only want to have it for 3 months and then they just don't care and then they do want a refund. Um, and that's usually because the main reason we see that is, for example, if you've created a course and it's just a course, it's just access to lessons, nothing else on an ongoing basis, then people will go through that material pretty quickly. And 3 months later, they won't be that interested in that course. In which case, that's actually more of a reason to charge annual, because then you've set a reasonable floor price for access to those materials. But then the better solution, of course, is figure out how to deliver recurring value. Other reasons for charging monthly, I suppose if you go down the route of something super specialized, like it's a monthly service that you're providing, but then again, it tends to be more expensive anyway, then I'm sure you can find exceptions, right? And that's another thing, is no business is absolutely the same as another. But broadly speaking, we've seen this work over and over on so many sites that we're very confident in it.
Gotcha. Matt, thanks for taking time to talk with us. We really appreciate it. Would you like to share any resources or recommendation for folks that are trying to learn more about Tilted Pixel?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, just go to our website, tiltedpixel.com. And right there on the homepage in the footer, you can find our newsletter. You can subscribe there. You'll immediately get a few lessons on optimizing your membership site. And we also periodically send out more information, more ideas on how you can grow your membership site. And of course, if you want to work with us, then that's the same resource, tiltedpixel.com. Get in touch and let's see if we're a fit.
Excellent. And I just want to really throw my hat behind Matt here for folks to definitely reach out. They definitely know what they're talking about, and they can definitely help you scale up your membership. So thanks again, Matt.
Thanks so much, Ward.